Hello, Vermonters. Today I would like to talk to you about race and about religion. And I am of a religion, the Christian faith, that says that race does not matter before the throne of Christ. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, whatever your race you are, sick or healthy. In fact, this picture, this is Our Lady of Czestochowa. This is a Catholic icon that I purchased when I was in Poland. This is the only souvenir I purchased. It's on our wall in our house. I took it down to show it to you. Because it was burned in a fire, and it shows Christ not as white and blue-eyed. And I always felt that was very important for people, and as a pastor, I preached that very often, that Jesus almost certainly was not white, whatever he was. And so I like to regard him as maybe mixed race or brown. It's the place where we could all come together. Now, there's a new religion that's come to Vermont, and it says race is the only factor that must be considered in a person's value. Susanna Davis came here and she talks about microaggressions when people stare at her when she's in a store because she's black. I wonder if they're staring at her more because she has probably more invested in her car than I have spent in all the cars I ever owned. But in Vermont, especially in the Northeast Kingdom, if you wear a suit, you will be stared at. Now, that doesn't mean people are trying to be aggressive, but what's happened is in response, there are openly aggressive people towards Vermonters. Representative Cordes, Scott Beck, and Donahue, these are conservatives now, or now both conservative and liberals. Phil Scott, they have been part of a group who have been saying for some time that if you're white and you're a Vermonter, you're a racist. Cordes actually stood up and said at a devotional, I don't care if you don't recognize it, you're privileged, and if you don't recognize it, then you just have a problem, and I'm here to tell you how privileged you are. No, sorry, you're wrong, you're privileged. You're racist, you're disconnected from reality, and you have a new religion which has no place in our government. And you're being paid, I'm not. I'm a citizen, I have an opinion. What this video is really about is having the conversation about race that the race warriors say they want to have, but demonstrate they do not. They want to dictate to you that you are racist. Here's the way it works. Vermont is predominantly white. Susanna Davis has specifically referred to this and others. We have a serious problem here. We definitely have to bring some black people here to cure this lack of diversity. We have a lack of diversity because we never had slavery. We never brought black people here against their will, except maybe one or two you might find, which were the exception because it was not our state's systemic policy. The opposite was true. We did bring black people here as part of the abolitionist movement and to help them leave slave states. You're not allowed to say that in the current environment because in this discussion about race, that would be denying that we're racist, and you're not allowed to do that. I'm here to tell you that I'm a white person and I have a different voice from theirs. And that I would say that if you say that we're all racist, you are a racist, and you just don't realize it yet. And I'm here to tell you in my enlightenment, because I'm actually more educated than you, Ms. Cortez, that you're wrong. And that we are not going to knuckle under to your new racism. Now, maybe someone would say, well, you just sound like her now. Well, yeah, except that now I've been heard. Now an opposing viewpoint has been heard. Let's talk about just how bad this is. There's an explicit, overt, vile racism being alleged against Vermonters based on the idea that all white people have a subconscious racism. Well, yes, we do, but that doesn't necessarily translate into action. People have subconscious all kinds of things, including lust, and they don't act on that. Black people do have subconscious racism as well, because we're all equal. Remember, we're all equal. And now in this new religion, we're told, though, black people, oh no, they can't be racist, only white people can be. Let me tell you, by explicitly, overtly, racistly telling black people that they have been subjected to a system in Vermont for 200 or more years that has compromised them, taken away their wealth, and enslaved them, when it's not true, even if it were true, but it's not true. So you're literally telling them to be racist and to view white people as their enemies and that we can't all live together. Because, by the way, if you look at this race issue, there's no amount of money, no amount of compensation that will ever make amends. What about the Jews and what they suffered just a few decades ago? Why aren't we all being implicated in that for being white or being Christian or something? It's the same stupid, horribly, viciously vile slander against Vermonters, and it will not be tolerated. So white people, stand up with me and know that they are liars about you and your ancestors and your family, and that they are using laws to bring their religion into our schools, bring their religion into our legislation, and to pass laws that lie and say Vermonters or farmers use sharecropping laws and Jim Crow laws to take black people off the land that they were never on. The whole thing is so ridiculously absurd that many of us, it's become surreal. So let's fight back. If you want to make the issue all about race, then let's make it all about race. Is that what you want to do? Would that feed into your plan? No, let's make it about race. Let's make it about white people who are not racist and who have the right to have that opinion. Even though you enlightened people think you're so racist, you see everybody how it works? Either you say, I'm white and I'm a racist, or by denying that, that just proves you're a racist. What a bunch of guff, okay? So my religion has a very different thing to say about it. My religion also hinges on the Constitution that Phil Scott and others are throwing out by passing laws that are specifically distributing wealth and health care and other benefits based solely on race. Solely on race. Hitler did it solely on DNA. Marx did it solely on class. Phil Scott and our state government are doing it solely on race without looking at other factors because they can't. Because if they looked at other factors, they'd find that they are solely lying. That the disparities in Vermont arise from other reasons. And in fact, if you brought 2,000 black people here from Somalia next month, and then you used their poverty to show that the average Vermonter who is black was so much poorer than the whites in Vermont, and then you could allege how racist Vermont is. Look how poor it's made the black people. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what they're doing with the arrests of black fentanyl dealers who are then incarcerated in Vermont for violating the same laws as all black and white people are held to, whether or not you like those laws. And then our police are being called racist with no proof, no evidence other than this perversion and manipulation of facts. How much longer will it go on? And what I want you to see is that we are not allowed to have a conversation about race. Susanna Davis and Mark Hughes, I hope you will meet with me and others at a panel discussion of race in which some views other than yours, you out-of-state people who do not know Vermonters or our farming or our history, New Yorkers who come here to tell us how racist we are, getting paid $125,000 to malign us. I think that we've had enough of this. Vermonters, this ideological attack is a much bigger threat to us than COVID. And if you've noticed, COVID has been used to further this ideological attack. BLM was exempted from assembly requirements. COVID is being used to distribute money and wealth and everything, because look at the horrible things that are being done to black people because they're not getting the medical care in Vermont that others are getting. That is an insult to our doctors and nurses. There's no one denied care because of their skin color. There are other reasons that cause these disparities. Even a small amount of intellectual resources would show that. I highly recommend Thomas Sowell, Discrimination and Disparities, which proves this. There are many other things that we could be looking at. But many Vermonters will die before we subject ourselves and our children to this new religion and this constitutional eviscerating tyranny that you're imposing on us. We will never agree with what you're doing to us. So on May 1st, we will be meeting in Rutland to discuss this. On May 2nd in Newport, on May 15th in Burlington, and on May 15th in Montpelier, and on May 16th in Burlington. Please do come if you care about equality, about fairness, the rule of law, the Constitution, and keeping this horrible, racist, systemic racism and racist religion out of our government and out of our state. It has no place here. It is the invader, and it is much worse than anything that's ever been in Vermont before. When Ann Donahue and others say, oh gosh, they were only merely tolerant 200 years ago, that's called historic self-righteousness. And these people who think that as they judge our ancestors that they would have done better are proving right now that they can't, even now in all their enlightenment and all their so-called education, fathom what they're doing and how horribly toxic and counterproductive it is in taking us into a new racism. That's why we won't tolerate it. And we're going to be talking some more about why it is that in Vermont and under the United States Constitution, we are to be all one color or colorblind. And that does not make us racist. That makes us Americans. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.